Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be interviewing Erik Thyssen, who is the Managing Director of the co-investment at AlpInvest. I think AlpInvest doesn't need introduction, but it'll be lovely for you to give us a little bit of background about yourself and what you talked about earlier in the co-investment session.
Yeah, I think we started, and myself, I was one of the founders of AlpInvest, so we started with AlpInvest in 2000, and as we thought that to really build an optimal portfolio for big investors, we had really to add value on top of the primary fund commitments we do. And we relatively quickly decided that co-investments, on one hand, secondaries are the other, were two areas to really add value to that portfolio.
And focus on them.
And focus on them with dedicated teams.
Okay, so earlier on I was talking to Cyril about co-investment. I think he gave an academic paper, but one of his points was that co-investment has got so many different definitions. Maybe you could give me a little bit of your understanding of what do you mean by co-investment?
Yeah, I think it's a bit co-investments. The word co is very important, I think. For us,
yeah.
And what we consider as co-investment is investment alongside a specialist in a certain area. We are a big private equity investor,
yes,
have
huge,
relationship
yes.
with many sponsors in the world, and what we do in co-investments is what we call working together, co-investing with specialists in a certain area. I give you an example. Well, if you want to do a mid-market deal in Italy, we want to do it with a local investor because we know that network is extremely important.
The local knowledge.
Local knowledge is important. If you do an oil and gas deal, well, you will do it, we want to do it with a specialist, with a sponsor who knows this area, who knows the whole value chain.
So geography focus, sector
or
focus.
Sector
yeah,
it depends.
Exactly,
it really depends
exactly.
from one case to the other.
So what, in your opinion, are the key success factors to get the co-investment right, since you're so focused in this area?
Yeah, I think it's really, there are three, in my view, three key success factors to really build a successful co-investment portfolio. One is proactive sourcing, and it's also something I think that we heard many times today, and that's really to avoid adverse selection, because you have to be proactive in trying to get invites for deals instead of waiting till you get invited. So proactive sourcing is extremely important.
So you mean you go look for a deal?
Exactly. We look at what's happening in the market, what are interesting deals, and one try to understand who could be the best partner for this type of deal, and then we are going to contact the sponsor and try to get invited for that type of a deal.
So you reverse the whole thing rather than waiting for the food to come your way.
That's exactly the way you say, look, proactive sourcing, trying to get into the deals you want to get invited to. So that's a very important one. The second thing is to have the opportunity to select well, and that seems to be obvious. But I think the fact that we are able to do some top-down approach and bottom-up approach, I think is important. Being global, and having access to a lot of information based on what you have within your organization is very important to do a top-down approach and to say, look, what are at this moment in time interesting areas, interesting geographies to invest, and then the bottom-up really related to the specifics of the company. I think there are some good examples. I think at a certain moment in time we saw that in the healthcare, and it was mainly healthcare services, we saw that for the same business, the same type of business, the margins in the US were much higher than in Europe.
That's interesting, because of your relationship with your US partners.
Exactly. And then we said, look, what's happening there? And then we saw really the pressure coming from the US government on the budget. And we said, look, this is tricky. Because it's quite clear that in some areas where the margins are so different, there will be pressure in the coming years. So it's an example of where we became very cautious to invest. I think there is also an example in the other way where we said, look, there were at a certain moment in time people said, look, why investing in Southern Europe? And we had some very boring industries, for example in Italy, where we found companies where we said, look, taking into account the very specific value chain here, this could be very important. And we had some very successful investments in that area in boring industries. So it's really about finding that combination of what I said before, top-down, and the other one is bottom-up. And that's important. And then the last thing, I think, success factor is really about being aligned. You have to be aligned in all aspects with your lead investor, because he's leading the deal. So you want to be aligned from an information point of view, have access to the same information, but also from a kind of documentation point of view, that you can invest alongside them, do a follow-on investment alongside them, but also exit together with them. So that's extremely important. So these are, in my view, the three main factors of success in co-investment.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for those gem ideas, and I wish you all the success. And
thanks a lot.
It's wonderful to meet you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.